Hi, welcome to the Shepherd's Rest Doc Talk. This is episode 170A.
I'm Cam, this is Julie. So while we're at 170, we have missed maquettes. Not missed it, but we took a little break during the week of Hanukkah because we were busy.
Really busy.
Oh, yeah, like jam-packed busy. Every night we had a fantastic family and friend festival of lights. And it was a fantastic time. We greatly enjoyed it. We missed you guys, but we thank you for understanding. So we are now going into Vayigash. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, it is going to be from Genesis 44:18 to 47:23.
And if you'd like to check out previous years, it's 24A and B, 77A and B, and 125A.
Yeah, only all by itself.
Yes, because we didn't do a B last year.
But this year we are. What? Okay, so we're going to, again, trying to look at some other things that have not been discussed. And this week when I was looking, I've really kind of been fascinated with the dreams that Joseph had. I think we touched on this on the last Doc Talk. I would have touched on it last week as well. So this week is going to kind of be a mix between, actually from 37 to this week, just looking at some of the dream stuff.
Okay.
So if we go and look at 37, just as a refresher, Genesis 37, we have where Joseph gives the two dreams, right? And it talks about, first, we have where just the brothers come. We know this, right?
Oh, he gives his dreams.
Yeah, where Joseph's giving his dreams to his brothers and then to his father. The first one has to do, as we know, with the wheat. The second one has to do with the stars. And again, I'm going to stress this because in 37:11, this is the father. What it says, and the brothers envied him, but his father guarded the word. Okay, so he guarded the story. And I want that to really be something that that you hold on to, okay?
Okay.
All right. So then last week we have in chapter 41 where Pharaoh tells his story to Joseph and Joseph interprets it, right? So 41 he talks first about the cattle that are the big healthy ones and the big skinny ones that eat. And then we have the corn, right? Or the stalks.
Stalks of wheat.
Stalks of wheat, yes. Rabbi Foreman at Aleph Beit has this fantastic story part, I guess you say, his ideas about looking at chapter 41 of Genesis and the dream and the wording that's used there in the Hebrew. That as it's being told, that it's actually kind of making Joseph think about his own life.
Right.
If you remember, he has first the cows and then he has it with the wheat. And Joseph had it with the wheat and then with the stars.
Right.
Now, I'm mixing some of the things that Rabbi Foreman said with some of just my head. So if you want to know the difference, you can go listen to his. If you remember, when Joseph tells his dreams, the one who interprets it is his brothers and his dad. Joseph never interprets the dreams.
Right.
He's just quiet. We just hear the dad. We just hear the family. And they all are assuming that you're going to rule over us and, in a very negative light.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward years later, 13 years later, he's standing before Pharaoh in 41. And now Pharaoh's telling this, and he's talking about the cattle, and he's talking about the cattle that graze. And what's interesting is these words, for them grazing is also the word for shepherds.
Okay.
And they shepherd cows. But really, that's not a form of a real profession per se. They deal with crops, right? But Joseph, his first dream was about wheat. Well, they don't deal with crops. They were cattle and shepherds, right? They were herdsmen and sheep.
Yeah.
Herdsmen. What do we call that? Shepherds. Herdsmen and shepherds. So, but Pharaoh didn't do much with cows, but he did with, so I'm saying this so you can kind of see. So Joseph's first dream had to do with grains, and Pharaoh's second dream had to do with grains, because that's Pharaoh's dream. So it's allowing Joseph to have a memory to attach to this that the Lord's using from his own life. We've got the cattle, we've got the shepherds, same words are being used. Now I bring this up for a reason because in this week, I found it very interesting in chapter 46 where we have the brothers coming in And Joseph goes up and he tells them, and this is in 46 verses 32. It says, well, excuse me, we'll start at 31. It says, and Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, I'm going up to inform Pharaoh and to say to him, my brothers and those of my father's house who are in the land of Canaan have come to me. And the men are shepherds, that they have been men of livestock, and that they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it is said, and it shall be when Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? That you shall say, your servants have been men of livestock from our youth even until now, both we and our fathers, so that you will dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination to Egypt. Okay, so I started realizing, I thought, well, I'm wondering what that word is. So I go and I start to look in it. It's shepherd. It's the same word that was used for the word feeding in the dream. Okay. So I don't know. This is just where my head went. So I don't know. God, brain, I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. That's right. But could it be that Pharaoh, remember he's really close, he's acting as the father to Joseph,
right,
is aware of the connection that Joseph had with the brothers, not fully understanding, because again, Joseph doesn't really figure out what's happened until the brothers tell it in 45 and 46. He doesn't really know the whole story. You know, he just knows he was stolen, but he does know that the brothers talked about selling him. We see when he talks about being stolen in verses chapter 40, he says he was stolen. So either he's not speaking evil or he really thinks he was stolen.
Right.
And then when he addresses the brothers, knowing what their plans were and having heard them over when they were talking, right, overhearing them speaking. So he's kind of piecing it together, okay, realizing that's why he says, you sold me. Because that was their plan. Whether they actually did or didn't receive the money, that was their plan. So he dealt with them on their terms of what they thought happened. Mm-hmm. But he dealt with the baker and the cupbearer on the terms that Joseph thought. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So I'm getting back to my point. So could it be that he wants his brothers to use these specific words with the herdsman and the shepherd, because that attaches him to Pharaoh's first dream, so that when they go and tell him, of course it's so that they'll be separated, but also it is allowing Pharaoh to see another realization of the dream and how Joseph's hooks, because Joseph's dreams have not come true until all the brothers came in 46, 45, 46, and actually went until 45 when they came and bowed. Because when they came and got the stuff, the grain, and left, it hadn't been fulfilled yet. Right. It wasn't until they returned with their dad. The second time was the last dream. And actually, here's what's interesting. In 47 is when the second of Joseph's dreams are now being fulfilled.
Okay, I was just thinking about Joseph's two dreams. The first one with the wheat and all of that was very much him saving them as a people in the land of Canaan.
Right.
But the second dream, the stars, was about saving the nation of Israel. Saving the bigger picture, the world. Well, saving Israel was saved. Even the Israel we know today. Yes. Even all of us who were grafted in. All of it was saved because that dream was fulfilled. Right. You know what I mean?
And I would say actually even more so. Here's why. Joseph's dad, Jacob, in 37 says, oh, so even me and your mother and your brothers are going to bow before you? But right here, Pharaoh is his acting father. The first with wheat was the brothers, the 12 nations. Or the 12 tribes. Because Jacob fathered them, but Jacob is no more after. It's just the 12 tribes. So then when we get to the second one of the dream of the stars, that's the universe. That's the entire world, which couldn't have been done until he moved here. And even though we have, in a way, Pharaoh acting as the father, he is the one that provides Joseph with the ability to provide for Israel, including Jacob. Right. Because if we see in 47:12, it's Joseph that provides the bread. And not only that, Pharaoh's the one who says, okay, Joseph, you put them where you want to. In other words, you know what really happened. You've given me these codes. I'm understanding there's a dream here, a fulfillment. So now it's in your hands to do what you want to.
Yeah.
And regardless of how he was treated, he has totally forgiven them. And he wants to provide. And that's why he says, or he said before, it's like, look, God did this, not you.
Yeah.
God did this. So anyway, I hope I didn't ramble too much, but yeah, right. Another thing I saw was in Genesis 45:28 and 46:30. These are the two places that Joseph, actually I'll read 46:30. It says, and Israel, okay, that would be Jacob, said to Joseph, now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive. And in 45:28 is where when he sees all of the wagons and he now has understanding. And he says, enough, my son Joseph is alive. Let me go and see him before I die. Now, this was that where he held everything. Remember we talked about that? Where he guarded the word. At this point where his spirit was dead and it was revived, okay, in my head, I'm like, yeah, because he guarded the word. He had some ammunition for the Lord to use to say, see, I didn't let that die. You know, how many times have you maybe read a scripture and you read it, and then one time you read it, and you're like, oh,
I get it.
Oh, yes.
All the time.
Well,
it should be happening all the time.
Yeah, and there's a moment right there that Jacob had where it's like, I've held on to this. You know, Mary does the same thing. She says,
I was just going to say that.
Yes, and she holds on to that word. Well, I found it interesting because in Luke 2, 25 to 32 is where we have Simeon, the old man.
Oh, and he says, I was like, Simeon's in Luke 2?
Yes, it is, which is interesting. So we have, and he's the one that when he sees Messiah as a child, he's like, well, I can die now. I've seen Messiah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's kind of like Jacob.
Jacob said
he
that.
He sees Joseph and he's like, I can die now. I know that salvation is at hand for us. Same thing Simeon said.
Because he guarded that dream.
Yes. And Simeon, name means to hear, hearing, right?
Yeah.
We have last week where he was he was the only one put in the dungeon, right? So, or in the jail. So the hearing was taken.
Right.
Yet when Messiah returns, we have the hearing returned. Because he hears and recognizes. I just was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We have it returning. And, again, the cycle. You know, Amos 8:11 talks about the famine. There's not the famine in food or in water, but in hearing the word.
Right.
And I'm like, that's a cycle that happened before Messiah came, and it's happening again before Messiah comes again.
Right.
So anyway, I just thought that was cool. And two other really quick things. One is, did you know that the sons of Israel is only used 4 times, 3 times in Torah and once in the Tanakh?
Really?
Yes. I don't know why, but I'm still really surprised. Yes. There's children of Israel, but sons of Israel. And sons of Israel is used in Genesis 42:5 and 46:5. And again, that's having to do with this moving of from Canaan into, and these are physically
Egypt.
The sons of from
sons.
Canaan into Egypt. But I don't know. I'm telling you, there's something there. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna keep looking because I'm really curious about that. And then the last thing I want to bring up really quick was about in 45:3. There's this interesting little. It says, and Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father still alive? But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. And of course, trembled, I was like, wait a minute. We had trembled. We had Isaac trembling when he gave the blessing to Jacob, and Esau's like, where's mine? And he trembles. And we talked about that. He was so mad, or, it's fear and shaking. It's an emotional type thing.
You talked about that with Isaac.
Okay, I did. Okay, so in that one, it's a different word. That was the first time that was used with Isaac. This one in 45:3 is a different word, first time used here, but both very similar meanings, to shake inwardly. This one is an absolute inward, like in amazement. So my thought is, because they are seeing the dream, they're getting it. I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, I got the dream. So we have the point where the brothers see it, and then we have the point where Jacob sees it. The two groups, how they each reacted to Joseph's dream. It's the bookends for the children of Israel and for Jacob. It's their bookends of Joseph's dream.
Joseph's dreams.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring that up about the trembling, because I just thought that was really interesting, that that tremble means it's to be alarmed, shaking inwardly, to be amazed.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I guess so, because they didn't believe him.
No, exactly. I mean, could you just imagine? You've already said he's dead multiple times to his face. You're dead. Yes. And he's like, even your words won't work here. You're not dead. Right. So anyhow, I'm sure I rambled, blah, blah, blah. In my head, it's so clear. I mean, come on.
It makes perfect
sense. Get in there and look, and then we can just talk about it later. That's how I feel sometimes, because those words, like, I can't get them out fast enough because they're just reeling in my head, and I just keep going and going and going. And anyway, so I shall stop my go. And
and so many times it's hard to articulate what's going on in our heads because there's so many precepts to get to that.
Oh, point. That's so true.
You know, so you
can't just jump.
Just a few minutes to jump everybody to this point.
Yeah,
and sometimes it's hard.
Yeah. So in summary,
there's going to be some people out there going, "Oh my gosh, she gets it,"
and some people going, "Huh?" They're just talking. Blah, 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 blah.
Right.
In summary, the dreams from 37 and 41 collide into reality in this week's Torah portion.
Yay!
All right, so that's all we have for you this week. We thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next week. Oh, no. We'll see you on the flip side with Julie and Axe.
Shalom!